Hi Poke fans, Harry here, and well, it has been a long time since I have said that intro, because yeah, it's been crazy with Doctor Who, but now I am back with another Pokemon video, with something important to say, and that is that Nintendo is greedy. Yes, now I'm sure you all spat out your drink, and I'm sorry to people with heart conditions, because with that news, oh yeah, is definitely something that nobody expected. Yes, of course, if you couldn't tell, I am being sarcastic. Because with the Switch 2 now out, yes, Nintendo has just gotten even more greedy. And in this episode, I'm going to go over all my thoughts about the Switch 2. But before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe, also leave a like and comment down below. And let's get in to the video. So, of course, the Nintendo Switch 2 has not long released, and there have been videos already pumped out by every, game YouTuber that is just, well, going over the Switch 2, over the new games that were released along with the Switch 2 for Mario Kart and Donkey Kong. So, yeah, it has been something big. Of course, even in the Pokemon world, with the Switch 2, of course, running Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, and seeing the differences between, of course, running on the Switch and the Switch 2. But, unlike many of those YouTubers, I am not entirely happy with this news for the Switch 2, because it has long been known that the prices for, of course, the Switch and the games for the Switch 2 are going to go up from what they were originally for the Switch and the Switch games, because it was revealed that it would be £80 for digital copies for Switch 2 games and £90 for physical copies of Switch 2 games. And that is without even factoring in what the Switch 2 itself is worth, which is £400. No, sorry, I got that wrong. It is actually £399.99. So not 400. I mean, you get a penny change out of that, and what can you buy with a penny nowadays? The joys of that penny, eh? What can you get for that? So, of course, in this economy now, prices have gone up. You cannot get a lot for a little, which does make sense, especially with how the economy has been dealt everywhere in the world now, not just America and the UK. So, of course, it makes sense that the prices have gone up, but they have been going up a lot. Because right now, the Switch 2 games are going to be about £80 for digital and £90 for physical copies. However, the Switch 1 games, or the Switch games, were originally around in the ballpark of £39.99 or £40 to £50. So, of course, there is, over half an increase in that. They are double, what they originally were. Actually, not even half as more. Well, half more is actually double more, is on top of what the original Switch 1 games were. Now, a Switch 2 game is double that. And, of course, that is without even factoring in the Switch 2 itself. Because, of course, the Switch 2, as I said, is £390.99. This is UK money, so you'll have to convert it for the countries that you live in. But yeah, it's around that in the UK. And one reason for the price increase for the Nintendo Switch 2 was they have their own camera, and this is for people to connect and talk with friends whilst playing on the Nintendo Switch 2, and you'll play together, you'll talk together through the Switch 2 camera. However, there is something that already does that, and that is a little something that is called Discord. And Discord does this for free. Yes, that is right. You do not have to pay any money for Discord, and you can still talk and connect with your friends whilst playing on the Switch too. You do not need to buy this £50 accessory, which basically does nothing, something that you can get for free. I don't know why you would pay £50 for something you can get for free. And also, yeah, you can decide not to buy that. It will come included, which is why the Switch 2 is, of course, the price it is. However, it's also extraordinarily high when you can buy it without the camera as well. Of course, when you find it, it will be with the camera, but you can also buy ones without this £50 accessory, but it's still astronomically high. And, of course, as the Nintendo of America president, the legendary Doug Bowser said, you can settle for the Switch 1, as most of the games will be available on both consoles, being the Switch 1 and the Switch 2. But we have already seen that that is a lie in itself, because there's also a bundle you can get for the Switch 2, which will be £429.99, where you have the Switch 2 and the new Mario Kart game, Mario Kart World. And as of recording, there are 2 games already which aren't available on the Switch 1 that are solely accessible on the Switch 2, being the new Mario Kart World and also Donkey Kong Bonanza. So already, even though they've said settle for the Switch 1 because the games will be on there, no, there are already games on the Switch 2 that are not accessible for the Switch 1, and the game console has only just released. So, of course, they're already telling us that, yeah, you can get the Switch 2, lump it, because we are not releasing games solely for accessibility on both Switches. Now, of course, I am going to preference that with a fact that, yes, all the games announced that weren't laid out, like the new Mario Kart World or the new Donkey Kong, that were laid out that they would only be accessible on the Switch 1. Every game that has already been announced will be available on both the Switch 1 and the Switch 2. So for us, Pokemon Legends ZA will be available probably on both games consoles. I am 99% sure of that. Of course, there is always the chance they can take that away from us, but I think that that Pokemon Legends ZA will be available on the Switch 1 as well. Now, I haven't bought a Switch 2. I wish I could show you this, but I am in my not original location, so I haven't got my Switch with me. But I would show you that I haven't got a Switch 2, and also, of course, I just think it is too much for a gaming console. The Switch was designed as the home gaming console, that you wouldn't need anything else. But they have made a better one, a one that will only work with the future games coming along the pipeline. So already, yeah, the Switch 1 has already been cast aside, and that is so frustrating, as well as the fact that with all these games eventually coming out that haven't been released yet, that they eventually will only be available on the Switch 2. And as I said, £80 and £90 for games, yeah, £80 is a lot. It is double what the Switch 2 games were, what the Switch 1 games were. But that is only for digital copies. Like, you don't even have the physical media. I like physical media a lot. Again, I wish I could show you the physical games I have for the Switch 1, but I am not in my normal location, so I don't have them. But I love the physical media, because then you know you have it. It is your own fault if you somehow lose the game. However, with the digital copies, yeah, really, Nintendo can take it away whenever they want. Blink of an eye. They can take it away when you have the digital copies. But if you have the physical media, it is your own fault if you lose it. However, they are saying, yeah, you want the physical media? No, you have to pay a lot extra. And it is already too much for digital media that they can just take away if you annoy them. We have already seen with Nintendo slamming, copyright strikes against certain creators, like when Point Crow made a Zelda mod, that Nintendo came down on him harder than, I don't know, Zacian and Zomazen to beat Eternitas Eternamax. Yes, they have come down on creators and just normal people harder than anything else. And that is a real shame, because not only are the prices increasing and the Switch increasing in over double what it was, in a time that is hard on everyone, where some people are even struggling to pay for heating or food, deciding on which is which. Of course, it is a hot summer now in the UK, so I think you don't have to worry too much. But then, of course, just now you want cooling now, you want a fan, you want something to cool you down in this heat. So again, you are stuck between a rock and a hard place. And Nintendo, with their pockets lined with as much money as they can have, they don't care. They don't care. Now, I do not want to say to anyone who has already bought the Switch 2 or wants to buy the Switch 2 that you shouldn't. I don't want to say that, because if you want to and you have the money, then you definitely should do that. And of course, games are running extremely well and fluid on this Switch 2. However, these are games that were available on the Switch 1, like Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, and Pokemon fans are freaking out about how good it is. But it should have been like this from the very beginning. Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet should have run at optimal from the start, from when it was released on Switch 1. Of course, there has been areas dubbed like Tag Tree Thicket as Lag Tree Thicket that has now regained its name, Tag Tree Thicket, after playing on the Switch 2. However, for me and for anyone else that still has the Switch 1, it will still be laggy as hell. And really, it should not be like that. Nintendo is just lining its pockets and basically saying, yeah, you have to pay a lot more for games to be what they should have been from the very start. But that is just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think of the Switch 2 prices and the games for the Switch 2? And also, even though a lot of YouTubers are hyping it up, don't feel any pressure to buy it. Of course, if you want to buy it by all means. I'm not saying don't. Buy it by all means if you want to. It's just not personally for me, and I feel like every game that was released on the Switch 1 that didn't perform as optimal as it is on the Switch 2 was basically just taking money for nothing, really, because it should have been as good as it was from the very beginning. But as I said, that's just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, also subscribe, and share it out. And hopefully I will have more Pokemon videos coming in the near future, because, yeah, I am hyped for Pokemon Legends EA, and I have a lot to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.